My girlfriend and I will be moving to Seattle within a week. So big changes, both for life and for poker. On the positive side, the dogs will now have a big backyard, so we're really excited about that. I have no idea what I'm going to play tonight. Might play some 1-2 as just kind of a blast from the past. Might play some 3-5-10. Might do both. Let's see how we do today, and then afterwards we'll finish with a recap.
So we sit down at 3-5-10, and our first hand is with the elite 7-6 offsuit in the straddle. The small blind races to 35. I could go either way with a fold or a call. This time, I stick in 25 more chips, and we see a flop of Queen 10-8. He checks, I check, and we go to a turn, which pairs the board with another queen. I think he's going to have a lot of air here, so when he bets $30, I stick in the call. I'm not sure if he actually has something or is trying to buy the pot, but even if he does happen to have something, I still have equity with my gutter, and I can always bluff. Going to a river of the jack of clubs, he checks, we have the board. I don't think he's checking anything good back here, and I think the board really favors me, so I'm going to bluff at this. So I think about my sizing, and I settle on 85. He thinks about it for a few seconds. We edit this down for the sake of time, and eventually he tosses his cards into the muck. Sadly, this was the highlight of part one of this session, making an enormous $63 profit on the hand with a bluff.
Well, my game broke. It was pretty short-handed. It was like 5 or 6 people the whole time. So it's probably a good thing. I'm down a whopping $50. Best hand I got was Ace King and Pocket Sevens. Yeah, I think I can play 1-2-2 while I'm waiting. So that's what I'm going to go do. Here we go.
Literally the first hand I sit down and I have Ace Queen offsuit. I raise the $15 from early position and get 2 callers. We go to a flop of Queen, Jack, Jack, Rainbow. I think I'm going to have the best here a lot of the time, and I think I can probably get value from a lot of hands, whether they be straight draws, weaker queens, or maybe even a lower pocket pair that doesn't believe me. This is 1-2-2, and people just love to call. So I put out $20 hoping to get called by something worse than I have, and if I get raised, I'll probably just flee for my life. Middle position calls, early position folds, and we go to the turn of the 7 of hearts. This looks like a blank to me, so I'm just going to keep the same thought process. I'm going to target other queens. I put 55 in this time. Mid position makes the call yet again. I think if he had a jack, he probably would have raised me by now, so I'm just going to work under the assumption that I have the best hand. If he happens to come way over the top on the river, I can still get out of the way. The river brings in the 6 of hearts. A backdoor flush gets there. I don't find that likely. I also think the 6 is going to be a blank most of the time. So the question is, what sizing will a queen call? I think about 1/3 pot is appropriate, so I throw in $60. He doesn't take too long and makes the call. We show ace queen, and it is good. He tosses king queen into the muck face up. So we get off to a good start at the 1-2 table, bringing in a $311 pot. Sometimes bad plays get burned. Sometimes they work out. I would not recommend doing this at home. I've got 8-7 offsuit from one of the blinds. It's a limp fest, so I go ahead and stick in $3 more just to see a flop. After the rake, we're down to an $11 pot, so this really is just a stupid idea of me. Anyway, the flop comes out 10-6-4 with 2 clubs. I've got a double gutter, as a 9 will give me a straight, and a 5 will also give me a straight. So I feel like I've got a lot of equity here. I'm going to go ahead and start betting. If I take this down, that's great, but I also want to build the pot in case I end up getting there. So I put $10 in. The same player from before who had king queen, he calls from middle position again. The other player gets out of the way, so we're going heads up, and the turn comes in the jack of spades. Not great, but if all he had was a 10 or maybe even a 6, he's not going to like this card, so I'm going to size up. I make it 25 this time, hoping to just take it down, but once again, he sticks in the call. Okay, let's bank this straight. The river comes in, the king of spades. Again, I don't get there, but I think this is another good scare card. He might also have a flush draw, and if he's just been calling the whole way with just a single pair, I don't think he's going to be able to stick around for one more round of betting. I make it 65, targeting all of his single pair hands and all those hands that he had that had clubs that missed. He snap calls and shows 10-6 offsuit. After that initial pre-flop horrible decision to play the hand, I'm pretty happy with how I played it. I'm either building the pot for me to later hit the straight and get paid off, or I'm going to cause his one pair holdings to fold out. I'd do it again if I could. He just happened to have two pair this time. Very rarely do I look at my hand before the cards are all dealt, and certainly when I only have one card, but this time I figure, let's just take a sneak peek. I see the ace of spades, I look again. Come on, ace, ace, ace. Oh yeah, the ace of hearts shows up. We've got pocket aces. That feels really good. We're sitting under the gun +2, and we're going to open to $15, hoping somebody will raise. Maybe I should go a little bit bigger to try and isolate, but I do want to get a little bit of action. So I settle on 15. I keep it standard, and I get not one, not two, but three callers. That is dreadful, sitting in middle position with pocket aces. But nevertheless, we've got the best starting hand in poker. It's a lot better than playing 8-7 offsuit. I tell myself to not get tied to this hand. There are a lot of hands that are going to beat me, a lot of hands that are going to outflop me, and my equity is probably about somewhere between 45 to 55% with three other players involved. We get a flop of 6-5-5 rainbow. At first glance, this looks like a garbage flop, but then I think about it a little bit more, and I'm probably in pretty good shape. There are only 3 combinations of pocket sixes out there, and there are only 2 remaining combinations of suited ace fives. So really, other than the random pocket sixes or maybe a 5-4 suited, I'm in really good shape with this flop. I'm going to bet for value, hoping to get some of those weaker pocket pairs to give me a call, or maybe some of those gut shot straight draws. So I put a whopping $20 value bet out there, and one by one, the free people of Middle Earth all fold. We will take it and we'll move on to the next hand. Always better to get a small win than a giant loss with pocket aces. We make a small profit sitting at 1-2-2, and finally a spot opens back up at 3-5-10. We switch tables and look down at pocket threes. We're sitting in under the gun +2, and we're just going to limp for $10, hoping to see a cheap flop, hit a set, and double up. $10 goes in, it folds over to the cutoff, and he makes it 35 to go. The button flat calls, the big blind calls, and I stick in a call as well. So we're going 4 ways to a flop of 7-4-3. We've got bottom set. It's time to set the trap. The big blind checks. We go ahead and check, hoping that the cutoff will continuation bet, but he doesn't. He checks it, but the button comes through for us. He sticks in a bet of $55. The big blind calls, and now it's time to spring that trap. We make it 200 to go. The initial raiser sitting in the cutoff lets his cards go. The button tanks for almost a minute before making the call, and the big blind calls as well. So all of a sudden, we've got bottom set, and the pot has ballooned up to $741. We've got only 542 to go. So unless we get an ugly turn card, we're just going to go ahead and rip it in. If someone's got us beat, they've got us beat. Cards I'm hoping to avoid here are a 5 or a deuce, because I think there's a lot of 7-6 out there and a lot of ace-5 out there. So both the 5 and the deuce are going to bring in straights. So I go ahead and say a prayer to the poker gods, and we are rewarded. The Queen of Hearts shows up on the turn. I go ahead and announce that I am all in. And then the waiting game commences. The button, who just flat called the cutoff's raise pre-flop, goes into the tank. Of note, he's only got about $20 more than I do, so this really shouldn't be that hard of a decision to either call or fold or go all in. He tanks for over a minute before ultimately calling, and the big blind calls as well. So I'm all in, and the pot's up to $2,367. I might need some help here. I don't know if I'm up against a better set or maybe 6-5 suited that flopped a straight. I don't know what's going on. I guess I'm rooting for another 3 just to confirm that I'm good here. I would take a board pair, but let's see a 3. The dealer sticks out the river of the two of clubs. I don't love it as ace five gets there on the river. But before anything can happen, the cutoff just announces, I've got the nuts, and turns over 6-5 offsuit. So he waited that entire time after flopping a straight just to try and Hollywood so that the big blind would put their money in as well. That was kind of frustrating, as it really shouldn't take you over a minute to make the call when you have the nuts, and the only action that's going to be different is whether you put in an extra $20 or not. Anyway, flopping a set and losing is never fun, but that's poker. The big blind announced that he had called with a 7 and a backdoor hearts draw, so he was still live as well. We needed the board to pair, the big blind needed hearts, and the button needed a blank. The blank came through, so we lose $777 on the hand. Time for a turnaround fast. As far as I'm concerned, if people are just flat calling raises pre-flop with 6-5 offsuit with a bunch of players behind him, it's time to turn up the aggression. We're sitting in the cutoff and look down at Jack 10 suited. So when under the gun +1, who's the same player who had the 7 and the hearts draw from the previous three-way all-in, raises to 25, under the gun +2 calls, the low jack calls. I am not just going to go ahead and stick in the call. I want to isolate or take this down. I 3-bet to 125. It folds around to the initial raiser who calls. Under the gun +2 calls, but the low jack folds. So we've got a pot over $400. We're going three ways to a flop of ace, queen, 9 with 2 clubs. But before we get there, the initial raiser announces a $20 dark bet. Under the gun +2 sees the flop, lets her cards go, and now it's heads up. I've got about 515 total, so a little bit more than a pot size bet. I'm definitely going to have aces in my range, and for me to get there is going to require a scare card come in anyway. So I think it's better for me to just go ahead and jam, see if I can realize some fold equity, and if he happens to call, even at best, if he happens to have a set, I'm still in really good shape with a ton of outs. So I announce that I'm all in for 515. He doesn't take too long. He makes the call. I announce that I have a combo draw. He says nothing. The run out comes with a 9 and a jack. No clubs to be found. So we do improve to having a pair at least. But under the gun +1 shows ace 4 suited. He's good. I guess the silver lining is that we got it in ahead, and there was a chance that we made him fold out. Anyway, despite getting it in good, flopping a set, we go down in back-to-back hands, and we book a loss of $1,300, leaving Lucky Chances and the Bay Area on a losing streak. It was fun, but I guess it's time for greener pastures. So instead of showing my face and just talking at you from the camera, I'm going to have the dog showing instead during this entire wrap-up. Overall, not a bad final night of poker in the Bay Area. We tried a few bluffs, some worked, some didn't. We lost with some combo draws, and we lost a cooler flopping a set against a straight. As you can see from this graphic, my 3-5-10 chart is on just an epic downswing. For those of you who haven't seen my most recent short, you'll see that I just got destroyed with some horribly bad luck, running kings against aces twice within an hour. So some pretty epic negative variance, but that's part of poker. I want to show you my home game chart for a second. It's a game I've won a lot over time, a pretty consistent upward trajectory. But as I go back and look at the individual entries, there are plenty of instances where I lose 3 to 4 or even 5 sessions in a row. I need to keep this in mind when I go through similar periods of variance in 3-5-10. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm playing great poker, and just because I lose doesn't mean I'm getting unlucky. I do need to make sure that I don't make a bigger deal out of momentary bad luck than I need to. Kings against aces twice within an hour is not going to happen very often. Combo draws, getting it in good, are going to come through for me more oftentimes than not. At the end of the day, it's all one long session. Just need to keep that in mind when things are not going our way. Good news, the channel is up to 380 subscribers. If you rewind a couple months back in October, we were at 180. So we more than doubled our subscribers. Once we get to 1,000 subscribers, the channel will be monetized. So thank you to everyone who subscribed. Also to those of you who shared this content or left a comment. That really helps the algorithm. So please keep it up. For those of you who are interested in giving to the SPCA, there is a link down below. And I think that's going to wrap it up for today. Looking forward to getting the first Seattle vlog out, hopefully with some good content. We'll be doing a giveaway as well. So I hope your holiday seasons are off to a great start, and we'll catch you next time on Poker for Pound Pups.
Hey everybody, subscribe here to catch the latest episodes. Also, hit that like button and share these videos with anyone who might enjoy them. Doing that really helps the channel and its goal to support dog shelters. So thanks for watching Poker for Pound Pups, and have a great day.